a group of cancer survivors set out to walk the Camino de Santiago to heal the scars that this life-threatening illness has inflicted on them.
When I was diagnosed, I just felt I lost part of myself, or I lost the person I used to be.
I'm finding it very hard to let go because I'm beginning to feel guilty again. I know I'm going to find some peace out there.
I was very hard on myself, actually. I used to kind of say, don't be so stupid and get on with it.
Together, this group will spend 6 days walking 115 kilometres to the tomb of St. James the Apostle in the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. But this is no ordinary Camino. These pilgrims will be led by agnostic clinical psychologist Dr. Paul Dalton, who's convinced that the practice of mindfulness can heal both body and mind.
There are several studies that support the idea that through mindfulness practice, that the brain can be reshaped. That's really hopeful, that we can biologically and neurologically see changes as the result of a mindfulness intervention.
Dr. Paul's research proves that mindfulness really can change people's lives. But how will this agnostic get on with this group of cancer survivors on one of the most ancient Christian pilgrimages in the world?
I'm not sure about the mass thing. There is that struggle for me to walk this pathway in a way that's not religious with a big R.
And can walking the Camino mindfully really help these pilgrims live longer and happier lives?
It's so out of my comfort zone, it's incredible.
It's like you're scratching at the surface because I'm just afraid of the emotion that's going to come out.
This is the second time that Bernie Walsh from Dublin has attempted to walk the Camino in northern Spain.
I had planned to do the Camino a couple of years ago, but I was diagnosed with cancer, so that put an end to that trip.
I couldn't do it because I was too sick. Martina went with her two friends. Yeah, her two friends. Well, I don't know about that. I'll be on my knees for part of it, but sure, I'll get there. You know yourself. No. Me? No, Gloria. No. You don't pray?
Bernie is walking for the Marie Keating Foundation. Tonight is her last fundraiser before she joins the group of other cancer survivors to face what is for her a marathon walk, because Bernie is a diabetic and worried that she may not be fit enough for the journey ahead.
The closer I get to it, the more keyed up I am about it. I'm a little bit nervous that will I be able to make it? And I got my boots today. I feel like they are growing you, seriously.
Do you wear those walking in the Phoenix Park?
Wouldn't you get up in the middle of the night for that now, wouldn't you?
He's done a lot of work on...
Across town at another fundraiser is Linda Keating, who is organising this Camino walk. She set up the Marie Keating Foundation with her siblings after her mother Marie died from cancer.
That emotion is always there, is always going to be there. And you think after 17 years, I'm learning to deal with it, I'm learning to live with it. But maybe this is exactly what I need, is to go to the Camino and find myself and find my peace with it, so.
And I got myself a new pair of runners.
Mother of three, Liz Yates, has wanted to walk the Camino since she was diagnosed with 2 different types of invasive breast cancer.
So more walking here. When I was going through my cancer treatment, I had made my bucket list, and doing a Camino was something I've always wanted to do. That sense of being on a sort of a pilgrimage and finding out more about yourself. Because my hair was blonde beforehand, so this was the first one I had, but I felt I looked very biddy-ish in that, so I didn't wear it a lot.
But Liz has another reason for going on this walk.
I'd be thinking of my dad, my sister, my brother who have died, my mum who died from cancer. It's enabling me to spend time with them. So I'm sure it'll be very emotional. I'm really looking forward to the mindfulness aspect as well, and seeing if it can help me to kind of chill a little bit.
Head of Psycho-Oncology in St Vincent's University Hospital is Dr. Paul Dalton. This clinical psychologist is going to teach the group the practice of mindfulness as they walk the Camino. Paul is currently overseeing a clinical study into how mindfulness actually works.
Potentially some association between high stress and cellular aging. Mindfulness can slow down the rate of that aging or that process.
Yeah, so it basically...
Mindfulness has been proven to be really beneficial in terms of managing anxiety and depression and low mood and some of the difficulties associated with physical illness. There's a really good evidence base that says, look, this works for a lot of people. This always feels a little bit strange because all I'm doing is telling people how to walk. The lifting of...
But before the group heads off to northern Spain together, Paul gives them an introduction into thinking and walking mindfully.
So quite simply, actually, just bringing an awareness to something that we've been doing for decades.
Mindfulness is a simple form of meditation which uses the breath to calm and focus the mind on the present moment.
Just taking this moment now to shift focus of attention to the breath, perhaps noticing the ebb and flow. The breath is kind of like an anchor or a way in to the present moment. Mindfulness is about learning to pay attention and to bring the mind from the future or the past back to where we are right now. Most of us as human beings, we end up living our lives on high alert, on automatic pilot. And we kind of miss the bad bits sometimes emotionally, but we also miss the good bits. And breath is the vehicle to help us come out of automatic pilot.
But not everyone gets mindfulness immediately.
I found it quite strange, actually. To actually sit with a group of people and not say a word was just, found it a bit weird altogether. It's so out of my comfort zone, it's incredible.
When you start doing the mindfulness, it's like, okay, I don't think I can do this, you know. There was a huge part of me that didn't really want to go any deeper because I'm just afraid of the emotion that's going to come out.
I'm very hopeful now that we'll have a group of people who walk this journey together and who walk that as a community. We also have an opportunity to develop or soften the relationship we have with ourselves. That idea about coming home to ourselves. And sometimes being out in nature is the very best place for that to happen.
As the group of new friends gets ready to fly off to northern Spain, Nurse Helen Forrestal appreciates the time they spent in preparation.
It was so valuable to have the sessions and to meet up beforehand because we've already formed friendships.
Oh, we're all together doing the one thing, whatever our reasons are.
So I'm sure we'll share a lot of stories, emotions along the way.
I'm a bit worried about this whole thing of like when you're walking a couple of days and then all the emotions are all going to come out. Hope we're all talking to each other this time next week.
Here we go. Well, I'm here. Whether I'm all set or not now is another story. I'll tell you on Tuesday whether I was or not. A bit anxious, but I'll be fine. I just want to get going now.
Keen hill walker Michael Sherlock is confident he's well prepared for the physical challenges ahead.
You know, I've been off the alcohol for 6 weeks. For the walk, lose a bit of weight and get ready for it. Doing the walk and all over the Dublin mountains and that, so it'll be no bother.
The group will spend 6 days walking the last 115 kilometres of St James's Way from the town of Sarria to Santiago de Compostela.
Welcome to Spain, welcome to Galicia. My name is David. I'm working with Camino Ways.
Marianne McGrath from Kerry has battled breast cancer for the last 2 years. Her inspiration for going on this trip is her mother, who also had cancer.
Since my mum died, when she passed away, like only at 54, I always felt, wow, like her life was so short. And she went through a really difficult time. We watched her kind of suffer every day, really. She was kind of very strong. Like, she never cried. I never saw her cry. I mean, I heard her cry, but I never saw her cry when I was in her company. I just felt from that day that everything that I want to do or want to achieve, I'm just going to try and do it.
Teresa Heron from Sligo still grieves for her husband Jerry, who died from cancer 17 years ago.
In 1998, I lost my husband to cancer. He was 39. We had 2 boys, 6 and 2 at the time. And I just had to get on with life, and you try and be strong and carry on. It's a long, painful journey. It still hurts deeply.
It's their first day on the Camino, and the group is getting ready to walk the 23 kilometres from Sarria to Portomarín.
Just take your time and enjoy the experience, smell.
Their local guide, David, is keen to find out how fit these cancer survivors are.
So I'm not going to go walk fast to test, make a test of your rhythm, ability. So go for it, bring it on. Take your time, huh? You're good walkers, I think. Left hand side, huh?
Pilgrims from all over Europe have been walking St. James's Way to Santiago de Compostela for hundreds of years. In medieval times, they walked to repent for past sins or to grow spiritually. But now the route has captured the imaginations of people of all faiths and none.
It's full of Romanesque-style churches, the way of St. James, OK?
We like these now, David. Downhill is life.
For some people, going down is worse than going up.
To prove you've completed the Camino, pilgrims must get a special Camino passport stamped several times along the way.
You can write it in the hotel, so when you arrive, OK?
When you're having a little glass of vino to relax.
Be careful, we have a lot of lost souls here, so.
There's a few out here, is that?
Well, we're not going to end up there eventually.
Let's go.
Everyone in this group has been deeply affected by cancer. Liz Yates survived invasive breast cancer.
Gosh, I'll never forget that morning. They told me that I had 2 different types of breast cancer.
I didn't expect to see some flowers in particular. Look at the size of these ones, my God.
When I heard the word mastectomy, I freaked. But it was a very emotional period.
Bernie too had a mastectomy to remove her breast cancer.
Basically, the whole of 2013 was just taken up with hospital visits and, you know, chemo and radium and all that. And it was days when I actually did kind of say, can't do this anymore. Like, you know, even to climb the stairs, I couldn't climb the stairs. I used to just sit there and cry. You see, I'm diabetic, so leading up to the surgery, I'm just terrified of anaesthetics. And I was really, I'm not a very religious person, but I don't think I ever prayed as hard as going into that theatre that I would come out. 10.8. Jesus. So I'm twice as high as you. That's high.
Go down.
Well, it should do. It actually should do. It should go down.
Michael Sherlock is walking this Camino for his wife, Samantha, who survived cancer.
You just never think it lands on your doorstep, but it does. Yeah, it's pretty shocking, but devastating. Yeah? You start thinking, you know, what if? It does bring all those thoughts to the fore, all right, but thinking about for your kids.
Michael is determined from now on to keep cancer out of mind.
Well, you're trying to make things normal and just say, no, it doesn't exist in our house, in our world, in our life. You suit me? Perfect.
But this seasoned hill walker isn't as well prepared as he thought.
The first casualty of war.
Will we put these on? Will that cushion it? Will that go? You okay to put it on there, yeah?
So see what am I going to do about it? Taxi.
After a few hours of walking together on this first day, they begin to share their stories.
I remember when I came out of surgery, my sister was laughing at me because I kept repeating the same things over and over.
Marianne's cancer was even harder to cope with because she'd already lost both her mother and father to the same disease.
When I was diagnosed, I just felt I lost part of myself, or I lost the person I used to be. Yeah, I found that really difficult. I literally couldn't stop crying. It just scared me to death because I saw what they went through.
All along the St. James's Way, there are stone pillars marking the remaining distance to Santiago.
Another sin gone.
Oh, look at this. They say that when you leave the stones there, you leave it for they're part of your sins.
Okay.
I'm doing it to remember people. Just people's photographs.
Teresa Heron has been struggling to move on with her life since her husband Jerry died from cancer 17 years ago.
My mind goes back to the sadness of what has happened. Jerry's diagnosis and his illness, and I'm finding it very hard to let go because I'm beginning to feel guilty again. That they might think I'm forgetting about him. And I keep telling myself I have nothing to be guilty about, but it's like, you know, it's wrong to be happy again.
Yeah, but I think this kind of lends itself, doesn't it? I'll be honest.
Setting off on the first day, Bernie was really worried about her diabetes.
I was very anxious about this morning because I'd never done anything like this. So I was a bit concerned about lows. This morning when I got up, I actually said a little prayer, which I'm not very religious, but I did. And I just said, please get me through this today. I'm really pleased I got day one over the way. Thank God. Or St. James, or whoever's looking after me. Somebody anyway.
After 9 hours of walking in the blistering sun, the group is exhausted, but glad to finally arrive at Porto Marine.
No, if I stop, do you know, my feet aren't beyond, they're my mother's.
Okay, time to climb the steps.
At the end of her first day on the Camino, Teresa pops into the town's medieval church to reflect on the day's journey.
I do believe that the people gone before us do give us strength from somewhere. How I ever got through the last 17 years, you know, Jerry was there. He wasn't there in person, but he was there in spirit.
The first day's walk has focused the body. Now it's evening and time for mindfulness.
This moment. So you might notice the movement associated with the breath. We're not so much thinking about the breath, rather kind of feeling the body breathing. So, you know, with our mindfulness practice, we're not trying to change how we feel. As best we can, turning up to what's already going on. When we have discomfort or pain or something we don't want, our normal instinct is to avoid it. We're going to do something different by being brave to be close to the difficult. Again, we spend a lot of our lives running away from how the body is. We're just training and noticing when we've gone into automatic pilot, gone away from where we already are.
I just felt at peace. I just felt, yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely, I loved it.
While Bernie is starting to enjoy the meditation, Michael is struggling to still his busy mind.
Like, how long does it take? Can you do it in a week?
They use the word mindfulness practice because it is a practice, and it's a practice for the rest of our lives, because the mind is always going to go, and it's always going to start telling stories about the future and the past. That's all it'll do. The mind will stop wandering when you stop breathing. So we don't want that to happen.
Not on this Saturday.
Not before Saturday, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The next morning, they wake with sore and aching muscles, and they face an even harder trek today.
We have 3 hills to climb today. Long hills.
Not really looking forward to the hills. Hopefully the knee will hold out.
On the summit of their first hill, the walkers are waiting for Bernie, who's been struggling since early morning.
We're thereabouts.
It's tough enough, yeah.
Thanks. Walking on this is nice, isn't it? Yeah. Good challenge. Yeah. On the bright side, we'll lose a few calories.
But we were saying that now. Are you getting any water out of that at all?
Sorry, folks. My sugars were very low this morning, and I started off really on the wrong foot. Calves are bad. Very bad.
As the nurse in the group, Helen decides to keep a close eye on diabetic Bernie.
I realised Bernie was actually struggling. She had very little sugar in her body, and because she was walking up the hill and using up calories and energy, it was probably dropping, and and she didn't really realise it. Somewhere like this, you don't have a lot of resources, so you kind of want to prevent something happening as opposed to trying to deal with it when it happens,
Or a different page for each day, is it?
No, you don't need to use a different.
Doesn't matter.
You can stand in the same place.
Linda Keating is stamping an extra Camino passport for her mother, who passed away from cancer 17 years ago.
It all comes back to why we set the foundation up in the first place and why I want to do the Camino. It's all about loving someone so much like my mother.
Someone else come in with me, Marianne.
Yeah.
Mindfulness can be practiced anywhere. In the afternoon, Paul sets the group a challenge: to walk mindfully in silence for the next 2 hours. For some, the silence is an enriching experience.
It's so beautiful here in northern Spain that gives you that sense of gratitude, how beautiful creation is and how lucky we are to be enjoying it. Being mindful just makes you more aware of every leaf, every tree, all the beautiful sights.
I just absolutely found it beautiful. It's nice walking in silence. A lot of time for thinking and get all of my thoughts together. Trying to reflect on a lot of stuff.
Silence really helps just to notice what's happening in the mind. It's a real way to get to know one's mind.
We're not been silent just for the crack, but it's actually when we begin to be a little bit silent, then we begin to notice what's going on in our lives, in our bodies and in our hearts.
I feel as if my feet would be out then.
For Marianne, the mindfulness has stirred painful memories.
I got really emotional and tearful, and I just started thinking about losing my mum and dad. So I lost them so young, they were both young, so. We never really talked about it, as in, Mum has cancer. Her cancer came back. I think she knew I'm not going to survive this. I think she accepted it for a long time before she passed away.
Marianne has come on this journey in the hope of finding herself again.
I kind of lost my confidence. I still feel I have, kind of. I hope that he'll come back someday, though, because, yeah, I used to be a very confident person.
Listen to what you're saying. It's exactly what I went through, you know, and yeah, I mean, I went back to work after being out for 10 months and my confidence was shot to bits. It was on the ground. And I found it very hard. Yeah, it takes a lot to pull yourself off the floor. It's since this summer I actually feel I'm back to not even the way I was, because I'll never be the way I was, but I think I'm a better person. I think I'm a different person. It changes your life completely. It changes your outlook on everything. I wake up every morning and I just say, I'm here today, thank you.
To embark on that cancer journey made me reflect a lot more about life. You can be here one day and gone the next. It made me question, you know, why am I here? What's important to me? Because I am very grateful to be still here.
After an exhausting 8 hours of walking in the Spanish heat, they finally stop for a well-earned drink and rest.
I'm going anywhere tomorrow with an energy bar and a dextrose tablet. First thing, so watch out.
And then it's time for mindfulness on the lawn.
When we slow down, we savour the really good things, and we also then turn up to the stuff that's maybe a little bit sore too, or that when we slow down, that we, you know, I think some of our pain and our loss, and to know that it will pass, like the weather.
As the group continues its journey along the Camino, Bernie faces an uphill battle. Linda gets some devastating news from home. Mindfulness triggers some distressing memories for Nurse Helen.
I really thought she was going to die, you know?
And Dr. Paul faces his own mortality.
It terrifies me. Yeah, I think death is terrifying, isn't it?
All on the way to Santiago de Compostela. A group of cancer survivors is walking the Camino in northern Spain, led by an agnostic psychologist, Dr. Paul Dalton. He's teaching them how mindfulness can be the secret to a longer and happier life. But having faced death, can living in the moment really heal the emotional scars of these pilgrims?
When I was diagnosed, I just felt I lost part of myself, or I lost the person I used to be.
I need to do this for me.
Ready to rock?
You look like the Terminator.
I'll be back next year.
It's the third day of walking the 115 kilometres to reach their end destination in Santiago de Compostela, and the 12 pilgrims set off at sunrise.
15 kilometers, that is nothing for you, my warriors.
actually was watching my shadow while I was walking. It was weird, and I was thinking, God, 2 years ago I wouldn't have been able to do this. Like 2 years ago I started chemo.
It's like we're doing it on horseback.
Yeah, it'd be a nice way to do it, wouldn't it? He looks like he's going to the 3:30 at Kempton. Have a fight. Buenos dias.
Walking St. James's Way can have a profound impact, even for people who are not particularly religious.
The church was gorgeous. Oh, it was beautiful. I lit a candle. That was gorgeous. It was really lovely. And I needed the start of my trip to make sure I got this far.
Teresa is not only thinking about her own needs as she walks the Camino.
Today's day is for friends, family and neighbours that have trials and tribulations going on in their lives.
The peace and beauty along the way has triggered unexpected emotions for Nurse Helen.
My mum was diagnosed 10 years ago with uterine cancer, but she's actually done very well and she's still alive. I love my mum to bits. I go and see her all the time. There was times when she had surgery, I really thought she was going to die, you know? It was just a very painful time. I never thought I was going to get out of that place, you know? Very difficult times, and you do come out of them. I haven't really talked about it, to be honest, you know? When you've openly said something, I don't know, it lifts the load, I suppose, you know?
The idea of the Camino, the way, walking the way with people, falling in and out of step with people, is really very symbolic to, I think, our broader approach to understanding that life is impermanent, life involves suffering, but also great joy.
His knee is playing up a little bit today. It's sore than it has been the last couple of days, but I'm leaning on the stick, and if you're going up or down, it's kind of sore.
It has been an intense and emotional day of walking. Now it's time for mindfulness.
Perhaps even noticing if I get a bit judgmental with myself, or if I kind of give out to myself a little bit. And with as much compassion and tenderness as I can muster for myself, just bringing attention back to the breath.
For Marianne, this Camino is becoming a journey of self-discovery.
The silent meditation, I think I'm listening more about me, the person that I am now. I've been very hard on myself and the way I am, kind of the way I am towards people and the way I am, like my feelings towards kind of life.
A key aspect of mindfulness is learning to be kinder to yourself.
Most people will say, oh yeah, there's a lot of inner criticism going on. Mindfulness is really a way to manage that relationship with the mind differently. And for most of us, that relationship is two things. It's very harsh and it's very critical. And self-compassion has been shown to be the kind of antidote to some of that criticism. Can I actually relate to myself in a way that's kinder, or that's more tolerant?
Yeah, feeling those feelings of gratitude and realising how lucky I am. And 26 kilometres in one day is a massive amount. I've never walked such a long. And we all had little injuries and niggles, but we all helped each other through it.
One of the wonderful contributions of spirituality and formalised religion has been the emphasis on compassion, but also that shift away from a focus on myself as an individual, me, I, my, to a sense of a collective. When we're connected to other human beings and a community, we do better, we feel better.
Yeah, sugars are grand, like they're 7, so they're good.
After yesterday now, I think I just feel a kind of a slight release or something. It's like a huge weight lifted off after last night, especially after the meditation, yeah. I didn't realise how emotional I was going to get. I had a good cry when I came up to the bedroom last night. I just felt it was like a release. I don't know where the tears came from, but I just couldn't stop crying for about a half an hour. And I just felt, yeah, it was just a release from, I don't know, everything I've been through.
We are climbing the Galician Alps. So this part from Puente to Arzúa we call the leg breaker, the guides, we call it the leg breaker. It's hard.
While this is a mindfulness walk, it's also a deeply religious experience for some.
I very much believe in God, and I believe He's here with us every day. I do feel very lucky that I've been given, I guess, a connection with God.
But not everyone feels the same.
I just have seen so many dying far too young. I just really, really thought, you know, the miracle would come out of the bag. I did get angry. There's still days I get angry. We needed him so badly. It really tests your faith.
In a way, I'm kind of steered away from church since I lost my parents, because part of me still kind of blames him, the fact that he kind of took them both young.
For psychologist Paul, religion and mindfulness are very different.
I don't have a religious belief.
I think with any organised religion, there are lots of sides that perhaps aren't how they should be. When I think about prayer, I often think it's about kind of asking for things to be different. I don't share that belief system that there is any sort of interventionist God. Mindfulness meditation is very different. And it isn't prayer. I suppose broadly shares the kind of contemplative traditions of most or all religions. We're using it as a way to still the mind and to learn to live in the present moment without wanting to change it necessarily, but actually wanting to modify our relationship with our minds so that our minds don't necessarily run our lives.
Then the rain gives Liz even more to think about.
I found this morning quite emotional. I left a stone for each of my family members who passed on. It was like they were walking with me. So my dad, my mum, my sister Karen, and my brother Jack. As the rain came and my tears came, and it was like as if they were walking beside me.
Meanwhile, Bernie can only think about getting up those hills.
Killer.
But she's refusing to give up.
Keep going. Yeah. Too little, yeah. Not an awful lot, yeah.
Last stint.
Last hill.
Is it a baby hill? Baby hill.
Buen camino.
And walk again.
It has taken her 7 hours to scale the Galician Alps, and Bernie is exhausted, but relieved to have finally made it. The next morning, the walkers set off in a light drizzle.
We're nearly there. Today is my day, for me. And today is my going forward.
Then Linda gets a heartbreaking call from Dublin. Her Aunt Rosie has died during the night.
That's why she's totally shocked.
She's thinking she heard somebody knocking on the door. Yeah, she's taking it. Oh, Linda, I'm so sorry.
Just want to say a prayer for her here.
Yeah.
And I told you I got the dead now.
You did? You're telling us? You're telling us?
There you go, there's Rosie.
What was
I am dead now. I got it the morning Mum died as well. It just woke me out of my sleep with someone knocking on the door. It's death knocking. It's gone. You all right, Mum?
Oh.
Well, thank you. We'll have to pray for her on the Camino today.
Yeah, we sure will.
A somber mood descends on the group, and Paul decides to lead a mindfulness session in the forest.
I'm bringing your attention to the breath and extend our love, compassion to Linda and her family and their loss this morning.
Can we all join hands, please? I give thanks for this amazing circle of support and protection. Blessed be. Amen.
I have a tremendous belief in human nature and in the resilience and wealth and love that human beings have. And I'm very happy to walk the journey with people who do that in all sorts of ways, with all sorts of religious and non-religious experiences.
Many pilgrims walk this journey thinking about people they have lost.
I have another friend with me on the Camino as well. She died actually 15 years ago. I still think about her a lot. She had a very painful death. She was so scared. She didn't know why God would ever think about putting her through pain. I vividly saw how she lost her faith and how it affected her. I think there's an afterlife. You do need your faith. I don't think I'd like to lose that.
The kind of idea of an afterlife is, I suppose in some way, yeah, of course it's psychologically protective. So we're psychologically programmed to defend against the idea that one day I won't exist. So sometimes religion is understood as that kind of defense. I think religion is a lot more than a defense against death, to be honest. Personally, it terrifies the life out of me. And who knows what I'll believe in closer to the time. The Camino is a way, in some ways, to be exposed, to be in nature, to be exposed to the seasonality of life, birth, death, and rebirth. We can, as human beings, go to great lengths to ignore, to run away from that reality. But that running away is actually exhausting. The reward of learning to stay with what I most fear, what scares me. And that is very empowering, actually, and very liberating.
Enjoying a little bit of cooler.
Weather's been okay.
Yeah, we've been lucky.
Only 32 to go. You're nearly there.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Take care. Buen Camino.
Buen Camino.
No pain. There's no pain, no gain.
That's it.
Smile while you're crying.
Well done, Bernie.
Bernie's feet are badly blistered, and at lunchtime, she's beginning to doubt if she'll make it all the way.
Yeah, my feet and my hips killing me on one side. Yeah, I want to try it and see, and if I just know I'm not going to make it, I won't make it then.
Hip kicked in, the painkillers.
Well, I can't feel my foot now. The blister could have disappeared for all I know. Seriously, I can't feel that in my foot.
Oh, jeez, it's burning.
Oh, listen, where there's a will, there's a way, let me tell you.
Just have a listen to the bell. And just for a moment or two, just connecting in again with your intention. So the kind of motivation that brought us here to share this journey, to travel on the Camino together. Congratulate yourself today. It's an amazing achievement.
Marianne thought this trip would help her find her old self again, but she's discovered something even more precious.
I was always hard on myself. After I recovered, I lost my confidence. And I thought by coming on this journey that it would change me, but it actually made me see that it's not actually a bad thing the way I am. I don't want to change now, except the way I am.
So kind of, this is me. And maybe the world needs to change a bit, and not me. Am I? It's quite profound. Mindfulness is, in many ways, it's about us as human beings taking real responsibility for our lives. What we're doing here is actually taking our lives in our hands. Going, yeah, my life is in my hands now. And this is how I'm going to live it.
So that you may never lose your way on the Camino again.
It's the final day of the Camino.
Santiago!
But they still have 17 kilometers to go before they reach their destination.
It's great to get to the last day and know that everybody has pushed through all of their ailments. So many people have suffered so much and just kept going.
Apparently it's a very emotional feeling coming into Santiago. There might be a few tears shed.
Last day.
On the way into Santiago, many pilgrims have made their own sign of the cross.
For my dad and my mum, my sister and my brother.
I found a bit emotional on a couple of little places we came through, because you just kind of think how many thousands of people have walked this for all their own reasons and all the suffering that they've had, but just the emotions have just flowed.
I think that idea was kind of coming up a lot for people, certainly over the last few days, that idea of impermanence, that our lives are very, very impermanent, and that our lives are passing and fleeting, and we're passing through. So, to me, there's a lot of very real richness in that, and a lot of potential for liberation, a lot of potential for psychological and emotional well-being when we realise how impermanent our lives are.
An hour outside Santiago de Compostela, Bernie climbs her last hill. It's an emotional moment as she realises she will, in fact, complete her Camino.
And I didn't feel it. I came round this side and I picked up a stone and put it on the thing myself. I think it's just because I've just wanted to do this. And I feel now I have.
I certainly have.
You know, you get to know people's little quirky ways. It's quite intimate, really, you know.
But I couldn't have done it without these two. I really couldn't. It's been just great. It really has. Thanks.
I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, me too.
This group of strangers have come together to complete more than 115 kilometres to finally arrive at their destination, the Cathedral of St. James's Tomb in Santiago de Compostela.
We're here at last.
Amazing. Well done. No bother. Well done.
Have a great journey.
For Teresa, walking the Camino mindfully has brought her the closure she needed.
What an amazing journey with an amazing bunch. I've just been running for the last 18 years since Jerry got sick. I've just been running. What I've learned is to be a little bit more gentler with myself, just calming down.
How are we? A drink would be nice.
Come on, friends.
In a celebratory mood, they go on a rooftop tour of the cathedral before the pilgrim mass.
Wow. What a wonderful closing finale to the week.
Then they descend into the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, where Linda prays at the tomb of St. James.
Of course, my mother, she was with me all the way. I did feel her very much with me. I stamped a passport all the way forward, and I could hear her saying to me all the time, "What are you doing that for? I'd never be able to make that walk." But she did it with me all the way, so I have her passport, and I'm just going to get her certificate now, and I actually think I'll put it on her grave.
He was a great guy.
And walking the Camino mindfully this week has taught Liz to treasure every moment.
It's not about the end game, it's about the journey. Just appreciating every day, and I am very grateful to be still here. I kind of feel I owe it to those who weren't so lucky to actually celebrate life at every opportunity.
When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, that's our greatest strength. When we stop pretending. That's where our strength is, in the vulnerability. When we really feel very close to someone or close to ourselves.
I couldn't have done it without everybody here. I couldn't, I know I couldn't. So I was really just taking the bull by the horns and going with it.
You're a warrior.
And I'm so delighted, I'm so thrilled that I've done it.